Hello and welcome to Women of Worth Wednesday. I am so excited about today and the opportunity that we have to join together all over the world and to be with my wonderful friend and hero, Janice Kapp. And I know that many of you out there have been waiting for this day. There's been a lot of buzz, Janice, about this interview, and I'm excited to come to you from Provo, Utah, with the temple close by in Janice's studio here. And we are really excited to see where you're watching from today. So if you'll make sure you post where you're from and where you're watching from today, we will feel a connection to you. We're grateful for High Five Live for allowing us to do this Women of Worth Wednesday show. And I'm so grateful for Janice and for her willingness to open up her home and her heart and share a little bit about her mission. Janice and I have known each other for a few years now. We worked on a little project together in this book called The Decision That Changed My Life, and she's actually the first story. Every interview I gave about this book, we led out with hers because her story of decision making has kind of transformed the entire world. And for those of you that aren't familiar with her story, I kind of thought we would start out there. Janice, why don't you share a little bit about what started your musical journey? And if you don't mind sharing the age you were at when this started, because I think that's crucial to the story.
Okay. Well, I came from a home that was full of music. My parents played in a dance band. All of us played instruments, sang around the piano. So I rather expected that I would major in something that in college because I loved it so much. But my brother also taught me to play ball really well out on the farm where I grew up. And that became almost more of an obsession to me because he taught me well and I had success. When I went to BYU, I decided that music would be more of a lifetime thing that I could enjoy because you can't play sports your whole life. I thought you could. After I got to BYU, I had 2 years there of studying music and composition. Loved every minute of it. But then I was married to my husband, Doug Perry, and he was in a service for 3 years, so I never got to finish. We had our children, five children, and during that time I still played for city teams and church
Sports.
teams.
She was the sports mama. But not just watching her kids play. You were playing on the field.
Yeah, I coached my daughter's team, but I was the one that was
playing,
involved in all the sports. My brother taught me to fast pitch, so
wow.
Everyone needed a pitcher. So we did that wherever we lived, and I loved it. Well, when I was just about to 40, just before my 40th birthday, I was playing basketball actually with my nephew, and I broke my ankle. That was a turning point. I guess I'll call them 2 lucky breaks now as I look back. But while I had my foot in a cast, actually the next day, the bishop came and asked me to write the Ward Road Show.
For those of you that are watching that have never been a part of a road show, it was back in the day, right, where we would someone would be called to write an original script, and everyone would get involved, all ages, and we would perform it, right? And so it was kind of a big undertaking if you haven't done it before.
Yeah, it was very competitive.
Yeah, it's true. It's true, because people got really passionate about doing the best road show.
I wasn't sure I could write the music, but I was competitive. So I agreed to try it. I hadn't written music in 20 years, since my college days, and the minute I picked up that pen and pencil, started writing that whole road show, I wanted it to be all music. And it was a wonderful experience, and we won, so I was hooked.
Well, and I'm going to stop you here because I love that you were passionate about sports, but there had been a literal break, and at the time your TV broke also, right?
Oh yeah, those 2 breaks.
Those 2 breaks, and then the bishop had asked you to do this, and at first there was some hesitancy because you hadn't done that, and I think all of our listeners can relate to that, where the bishop calls or the stake president calls and gives you an assignment, and you're thinking, there's no way I can possibly do what you're asking me to do. And I just think if you hadn't had the courage to take on a calling you didn't feel comfortable doing, we may not have Janice Kapp Perry music of today that has literally changed the world. And so I love that story, because for me personally, I've shared this in a lot of firesides. That was instrumental for me when I contacted Janice. When I got a calling I was overwhelmed with, and it had to do with music. And I didn't want to lead the primary because I had no musical training at all. And I believed in the gospel principles and loving people, but music, if I had to move my hand and sing at the same time, that overwhelmed me. And I remember feeling like her story inspired me to say yes, because I didn't know what was going to come from that, just like you didn't know what was going to come from saying yes. So from that point on, writing the roadshow, fast track us a little bit. How did it become the Janice Kapp Perry phenomenon?
Well, the kids that I wrote the roadshow for, they wanted me to keep writing popular songs. I tried it. It was fun but not fulfilling. And one day I looked at the piece, I Am a Child of God, and I realized that's what I wanted.
That kind of music.
I just made 2 goals that day, to write music and add to the simple music of the church. That's what I loved. My second goal was just hoping the primary kids would someday sing one of my songs. So I just kept writing from then on. I sent them to the church. They received so much music that is sent in. They just suggest that I write in my own little corner of the world.
And not bother them?
I did that exactly. I started writing for the primary in my stake and for the young women.
Wow.
For their their yearly conference that they had. And I kept writing for every occasion that everyone would bring up. And eventually some of those made their way to the church from other people.
What was the first song that kind of made its way to the general church leadership?
It would probably Love Is Spoken Here.
Okay. For those of you out there that love Janice Kapp Perry's music, you'll have a tender place in your heart for that. That brings me to the next question. The process of realizing that your heart was leading you towards simple music that you wanted children to be able to understand and relate, I think is what makes your music so powerful. And I've shared this before, that even if you've walked away from your faith, if you've grown up singing A Child's Prayer, for me that's one of those songs that immediately I feel God and I know He loves me. And there's something about music that stays in your heart even if your choices in your life lead in a different direction.
I talk about that at every fireside.
Oh, good. We're saying the same stuff.
If those thoughts are in their mind, they'll come forward when they need them.
Because they're true principles.
Of all the thousands of letters we've had, I would say that's what happens most often. I was in this situation, and your song came to me and helped me decide or resist or go ahead or whatever. It's so wonderful to get those letters and knowing that your music is useful.
Right. So can you share a little bit about that process of receiving? Because the power of those messages carry on for generations. I believe you may not know the impact you've had in the world until the next life, right? But that process of creating, if there's those watching that are artists or composers, musicians, writers, that creative process you and I have talked about as a writer. Sometimes when I know a project needs to be written, I almost get panicked because I also know the opposition that comes with that, and how you, I know, have shared with me the process of getting in tune with God. What do you do, especially for moms out there and women out there that have these things in their heart, but they're changing diapers and they're awake all night with kids and they're trying to juggle paying the bills and getting to soccer practice, and yet their heart is also leading them towards some of these talents. Can you talk about both receiving that and making time for that?
Well, first of all, let me say that I think it's really important that when your kids are little, that is what you're doing. And my youngest was in 3rd grade when I started. I had 6 hours a day to myself.
Because he was already in school.
I didn't feel like I had shortchanged my children.
Yeah.
And when my husband went to graduate school, I got a job thinking I'd have to put him through. And the day before I started the job, I realized I could not leave my children. I just won't. So I took other children to 10 and started typing dissertations and theses for other students in my home at night.
So you found another way.
I found a way to stay home, and music was another way to stay home. When I am given an assignment, which I often was in the beginning, in our stake, but then I read everything I can on that subject, and I pray about it, and I just studying background so you'll get the most important things in your song. And I, sometimes, very often go to the temple when it's an assignment from the church, for the general church, which it got to be later.
Yes.
I came to know very quickly that you have extra help.
For sure.
Assignments that I've had that I could not see how I could write the young women's values into
A
name
song.
7
Yeah.
things in a normal song. But when I realized the importance of the project and put myself in a spiritual position to be able to receive help with it, it just wrote itself. I almost thought anyone who had the assignment would have written the same song.
Interesting. So you saw that it was really God's words that you were the instrument to bring forward. You put yourself in the temple and in spiritual places. I remember you sharing with me at one point where you went into your room and shut the door and told Doug and the kids to leave you alone.
That was that song.
And that was the Young Women's song that you really had to wrestle. And when it came, it came, and you knew it was heavenly sent. And that, I think that's such a good, I think those two principles are important, that Heavenly Father had a timing for your life. You put your family first, and he kept in reserve this talent and this blessing that you were about to share with the world, and it was paced appropriately for your family and for you.
It was.
And then I think what I find so remarkable about Janice is her humility. I don't think she knows she's Janice Kapp Perry, and I joke with her often that I'm here on the planet to remind her that she is. Can you share with us a little bit about what you, if you were to name, I know this is a horrible question, a song, maybe it's the Young Women's song, but a song that for you was changing for you? Because I could name all the Janice Kapp Perry songs that have changed me, but what Janice Kapp Perry songs have changed you?
Well, I know my favorite is A Child's Prayer. And a poll was taken here by LDS Living Magazine years ago, and the 100 most popular LDS songs ever. And I was absolutely amazed that it was number 1.
Yeah.
But
it doesn't amaze me.
It's number 1 in my heart.
Yeah.
I mean, there are days when we ask Heavenly Father, are you really there?
Yeah.
I guess I had one the day I was writing it.
And I'm so grateful. Every time I hear that song, I'm grateful that you were vulnerable enough to write what is really in all of our hearts. Because sometimes music or talks from the pulpit can feel like they're coming from a place that everything's working out great, right? And everything's rosy. And that song, I think the reason it impacts me, and I think generations, is because it comes from that place of honesty. Well, I want to share with all of our viewers what is current new Janice Kapp Perry products that, do you want to talk about this one?
Yeah, I've been writing hymns for the last decade, probably 2 decades. I probably have written 300 hymns now. This is our latest one. My collaborator and I, stake president in Dallas, David Larson, we started writing about our favorite conference talk, one hymn, and then we realized that every year we did it,
it was Jeffrey R. Holland.
Elder Holland. We loved them all, but I just gave him a challenge. I said, let's write one for every conference talk he has given as an apostle. So there are 47.
From 1994 to 2017, right?
Yes.
Jeffrey R. Holland
Yes.
talks. And another reason I love Janice, because that's, if I could write music, it would probably be all Elder Holland talks as well. And so you were able to present this at Education Week last year, and it sold off the shelves. So where can people get this?
Any of our products are just JaniceKappPerry.com.
Okay.
They're all available there.
On JaniceKappPerry.com. And do you want to talk about your Book of Mormon project?
Here's our latest one. This is Book of Mormon Heroes for Children. I just took 16 of my favorite heroes, wrote a song about them, and we found and we tell a 5-minute bedtime story. And we have a wonderful artist. If I can just find a couple of pictures here. Is it a picture of Ammon? And the story is there, and if we turn the page, there would be a song there.
And I remember you telling me about, and it's so great because parents could use this for their bedtime routine and they wouldn't have to, or their scripture study as a family, and they wouldn't have to overthink it. But I remember you telling me there was a lack of Book of Mormon hymns and songs, and so...
almost none in the hymn book.
Yeah. And so one day, I mean, I love how the Lord uses you because you realized there was a void of that. Why was there, right?
I'll show you what we've done on that. But I did want to mention this CD in the back where the stories are told and the songs are all sung.
So parents can be tired and not even have to say a word, and it comes with a coloring book.
Comes with a coloring book.
And
a match card game, which has been really popular.
That's nice.
And a little collector's
wonderful
set.
Yeah. So for Valentine's Day, maybe if you're trying to figure out what to give your families or your kids, that's a great.
Very popular at Christmas time.
And then when you realized there weren't a lot of Book of Mormon hymns,
I collaborated with a woman in Colorado who's very scriptural, and she wrote 28 Book of Mormon hymns at the time that this was published, but we went to a publisher this time, Covenant. They were kind enough to see our vision, but they weren't sure new hymns would sell.
Yeah.
So the first half of this
it's a beautiful book.
Songbook for LDS families. The first half of it is 18 of my best known songs, and we tell the story behind them. Then the second half is all about Book of Mormon. It starts, let me see, I should have found it.
It starts with the beginning, right? Yeah.
The second half are Book of Mormon hymns. And we were fortunate enough to have the whole Arnold Freeberg
art collection
to go with our Book of Mormon hymns.
Yeah, it's a beautiful book.
This is called a legacy book. And to me, that was kind of, I mean, I'll be 80 on my next birthday.
Can you believe it? Look how awesome she looks. 80 years old.
Just look at the gray hair.
It's beautiful. People spend a lot of money to get gray hair now.
To me, it is a legacy.
Yeah, so her original, maybe some of your beloved Janice Kapp hymns is also included with this Book of Mormon.
18 of them.
And beautiful artwork and CDs and I just love, I love having this opportunity to share.
Well, thank you very much.
Your mission has transformed the world, and I don't say that lightly because I do feel like there's a power in music that we can't find it anywhere else. We can do our best in speaking, but when you hear it in song, it stays in your heart.
So true.
And for you to be the instrument of that and to sacrifice your time and your talents and being willing to live your life so you can be worthy to receive those messages, but also be vulnerable enough to be honest so that these songs feel like music from our heart and words from our heart. I just think that's such a testament of what mission and what you've accomplished.
If I could just say one more thing. We branched out from Elder Holland.
Yes, they are working on, some more.
So at this last conference that was just passed.
It wasn't just an Elder Holland project.
We loved all the talks, and we wrote hymn for every apostle and member of the First Presidency who spoke. We're trying to find a way to get them out. We haven't yet, but we're working on it.
They can go to your website and find your work.
Yes.
And any products that they're interested in.
All of our products from the past are available, and including these new ones, and it's JaniceKappPerry.com.
Wonderful. And we love seeing everyone that's joined us. I just saw some from Scotland and other areas of the world today. I know that Janice is beloved all over the world. Her music crosses religious lines. It's not just LDS folks that respond. I know that the non-Mormons in my life, especially A Child's Prayer, speaks to their heart as well. And I always invite people that contact me that say they're struggling with depression or anxiety to Google the Mormon Tabernacle Choir singing A Child's Prayer. and that will calm you in a moment's notice. So,
And you'll see me in that picture.
oh yes, that's right, that's right.
I was in the choir in the 90s.
That's wonderful. And thank you.
And my thanks to GANEL-LYN. She's a wonderful author, my favorite.
Well, and before I start to cry, I'm just grateful that you're still willing to continue to serve this way, because the world needs light, love, faith, and hope, and you bring that in music. So thank you for sharing
Thank
today
you.
with us.
I plan to continue as long as I can.
That's great. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week for Women of Worth Wednesday. And thank you again, High Five Live, for allowing this program to happen each week. And please make sure you share this video today with anyone in your life, especially music lovers and those in your life that are trying to balance family and home and still work on their creative side. I think this message from Janice Kapp will inspire them and support them. So thank you.